Welcome to the January 12th, 2016 regular meeting of the Troy Planning Commission. Copies of the agenda for tonight's meeting are available at the entrance to the room. Additionally, the agendas and minutes of prior meetings are available on the city's website. The meeting will be conducted in accordance with the agenda as presented or amended by the Planning Commission. The roles and responsibilities of the Planning Commission are outlined on the reverse side of tonight's agenda. State law establishes planning commissions. The commission is comprised of 9 members, all of whom have volunteered to serve. Members are appointed by the mayor and confirmed by city council. The other individuals seated at the table this evening are representatives of the city's planning department, the city attorney's office, and the city's planning consultant, Carlisle Workman Associates. If you wish to address the planning commission, please come forward when recognized and provide your name and address on the sign-in sheet. Please begin your remarks by stating your name for the benefit of the commissioners. All remarks are to be addressed to the Planning Commission and not to anyone else in the room. At this time, I ask that all cell phones, Blackberries, PDAs, or any other devices that might disrupt this meeting, please either be placed in silent mode or be turned off. Ms. Sarnecki, the roll call, please.
Mr. Aphidian?
Here.
Ms. Cruz? Here. Mr. Edmonds?
Here.
Mr. Faison?
Here.
Mr. Hudson?
Here.
Mr. Krant?
Here.
Ms. Krupa? Mr. Zanzika?
Yes. Here.
Mr. Tagle?
Ms. Krupa is in India this week, and I think we all received a notice about her she missed this the first 2 meetings in January. Okay, the next item is the approval of the agenda. Could we have a motion to approve the agenda as
I'll move it.
Thank you, Tom.
Support.
And second by Mr. Sanzika.
Ms. Cruz?
Yes.
Mr. Edmonds?
Yes.
Mr. Faison?
Yes.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
Mr. Krant?
Yes.
Mr. Zanzika?
Yes.
Mr. Tagle?
Yes.
Mr. Aphidian?
Yes.
Agenda item number 3 is minutes of the December 22nd, 2015 meeting. Could I have a motion to approve or amend? Approved by Mr. Aphidian, seconded by Mr. Tagle.
Mr. Edmonds?
Yes.
Mr. Faison?
Yes.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
Mr. Krant?
Yes.
Mr. Zanzika?
Yes.
Mr. Tagle?
Yes.
Mr. Aphidian?
Yes.
Ms. Cruz?
Yes.
The next agenda item is public comment for items that are not on the agenda. Is there anyone in the audience who wants to speak to an item that is not on the agenda? Seeing no one, we'll move on to agenda item number 5. This is a preliminary site plan review. File number SP1010, proposed Bradley Square condominiums, the east side of Rochester, between Bradley and Shallowdale. Section 14, currently zoned RT, one family attached residential, and R1C, one family residential districts. Thank you, Mr. Carlisle.
Yes, thank you, and good evening to the Planning Commission. I have a very quick update, a very quick report on the plans, and the applicant is here to address any questions from the Planning Commission. This last item was before the Planning Commission on December 8th. At that time, the item was continued to allow the applicant to address 4 items, 2 of which we deemed most essential, and the Planning Commission spent most time discussing 2 of those items. So I'll quickly go over those 4 items, how the applicant has responded to those 4 items, and then allow the applicant to go into further detail if the Planning Commission seeks more information. The first item was the increase the width of the 5 parking spaces adjacent to the stormwater retention facility. They have increased those widths, so all the parking requirements have been met and all the dimensions are compliant with the ordinance. The second issue of discussion was the incorporation of naturalized stormwater best management practices. We discussed this with the applicant. This was discussed at the last Planning Commission meeting. The applicant did go back and look at their site plan to see if they can incorporate some of these elements. However, they are not at this time incorporating those, and you can the applicant can go into more detail about that. The 2 other items that were of most significance in discussion was screening along Livernois, and lastly, elevation issues and concerns. I'm sorry, Rochester. So the first item was the screening. The applicant has increased the amount of screening requirements along the right-of-way. They do meet the ordinance requirements. They have also met with the property owner to the east, the single family that it abuts to. Based on discussions with that property owner, they had asked the applicant to increase the screen along that property line. The applicant has done that. So in totality, they are required to plant 111 trees. They actually have 131 trees on site. So they exceed the ordinance requirements, and they are in the required locations and the required size. In regards to the elevations, the applicant has made changes to the elevation based on the discussion of the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission had raised two concerns at the last meeting. The first was the monotony of the design and the lack of variation in facades, and the second one was the rear elevations as they front on the road. The applicant has changed the elevations by adding columns and a hip roof to the covered front elevations, inclusion of a shake siding on the front elevation, addition of some vertical architectural elements along the rear elevation, and the addition of shutters along the rear elevations. One of the issues that came up was the requirement in the variation of facade elements, and we do note on the front elevation, they do meet that requirement because they have basically, I think it's 3 or 4 models, and they can vary the models based on the requirements. So they have an A, B, C, and D, and then go A, B, C, B, C, and change the variation fronts to meet those ordinance requirements. So they do meet that requirement. However, the Planning Commission can ask the applicant questions in regards to the change to the elevations as necessary. So in summary, we do find that they do meet the ordinance requirements. However, the Planning Commission should discuss the revised elevations with the applicant. Thank you.
Any questions for the planning consultant? If not, is the applicant here?
Yes.
Please go to the microphone and
Thank you. Hello again.
flip the microphone up a little bit. So you know.
I'm not sure how to do that. Should I go backwards?
Oh, it's lamp a little bit.
I just
Thank you.
Hello again, Tim Walkman, Robertson Brothers, 6905 Telegraph Road, Suite 200, Bloomfield Hills, 48301. Tonight, in lieu of Paul Robertson, I have Jim Clark with me. He's the president of Robertson Brothers. Knowing Jim as I do, I'm sure he'll want to jump in and add some input. Ben did a great job of kind of telling you where we've been, where we're at today. I'll just briefly kind of add to that. Obviously, we've got the elevations up here. First, I'm going to talk about the landscape plan, though. As this is pointed out, we actually did meet the landscape code as far as the minimum requirements. We didn't have the number necessarily along the frontages. I think this plan is much better. We pulled some of those trees that were on the perimeter of the detention basin and also in the interior, so you can see that. And then along the frontage, particularly along the buffer with the neighborhood, there's quite a bit of pines there. So I think that overall this is a much better plan. You can see from that. Moving on to the elevations, so Ben did go into that quite a bit. On the front, we feel these are distinct elevations. We believe it meets the ordinance. You can see we did add additional material. I do have the material color sample board here. This is the same color material sample board that we did at Kilmer. I'm sure you're familiar with that on Big Beaver next to Bahama Breeze. So we feel that these are very attractive. It's a nice color palette. And we did add in that shake, as you can see there on a couple of the elevations there, which really makes, you can see it breaks that elevation up to see four distinct units.
Trust it there?
No, I don't.
I want to make sure everyone has a chance to see this.
So the shake is new. I wasn't on the previous models.
That's correct.
Let's see the shake. And the brick is new.
The brick's on there in the front. I'll get to the rear elevations with regard specifically to the brick, but in the front, I don't think we changed anything with the brick. We had that kind of vertical undulation before. We just added the shake element, as you can see there. And specifically, I know there was a lot of discussion on the shed roof, how it just kind of looked like it was maybe tacked on. I know that was concerned. We took a look at that. We added columns to every single one of those entryways. I think that really adds nice elements that frankly probably should have been there. Yep.
as predicted. Jim Clark, 6905 Telegraph Road, Bloomfield Hills, Michigan, with Robertson Brothers. We also are going to option patios outside of those on-grade concrete patios with a small hedge, so that if people want to be out front of their unit, not on their back deck, there will be a seating area out there that will be screened by landscaping. Those will come in for approval, but it will also add some additional variation to the front elevations because they won't be standard, and some people would take them and other people won't. So we think that provides a opportunity for people to have living space or communal space, if you will, out front and on their deck. So I'll leave it back to you.
See, I told you. So again, the shape, and then you can see the columns. We did add, I don't know if you can notice this, we did add one element. So we took one of those shed roofs, we actually did a hip roof. So you have the gable, you have the shed, and you have the hip roof, which I think is a nice element to those entryways, so it's a nice pronouncement. If we can go to the rear elevations, please. Okay, thanks. So we recognize that this, parts of this would be visible from the roadway. So we did take a look at this, and we added a number of elements. I want to kind of walk through some of these. And in fact, I do have some perspectives, which maybe I should have handed that when I was talking. Thank you. What you can see is on the, first of all, we kind of have horizontal changes in, or variation, and we have vertical variation. So before, if you recall, we had all vinyl, essentially on all three levels, including where you have the garage doors. In fact, if you recall, this really looked pretty whitewashed, didn't have much detail to it. What we decided to do is add the brick on the bottom up to the top of the garage doors. I think that really gives it a nice element and kind of breaks it up, from a horizontal standpoint. So that's essentially what we decided to do on the bottom part. Now, the middle part, we didn't really do much to that. I think that had a lot of variation as it was. It already had some of those vertical elements with regard to the privacy walls in between the rear patio areas. These do jut out a little bit, so that's something you can't really see on the two-dimension. I think that you can see on the perspective a little bit more what that looks like. And then it's just a wall of windows, so it's all fenestration. It's just it's all glass, and it's very similar to Kilmer. If you've gone out there, I think that's a very nice element. That really is one of I think the best parts about this plan in particular is that wall of windows. And then you get up to the third level. From before, that was just all vinyl, was basically all the way across. There were no shutters or anything, so we added some shutter elements. We've got the vertical, if you can see the vertical boards that kind of separate it to really pronounce, the separate units rather than one big mass. And even to pronounce that more, we've changed the color. So you notice we did have the two-color scheme there. So the two-tone, we put the two-tone in the middle really to kind of identify that. I think that breaks it up quite a bit, at least in my mind. So all those elements together, see if I missed anything on that. No, I think Ben had mentioned most of that too. So I just wanted to point out the brick, because I don't know if that was mentioned before, as well as the different color schemes. So again, I think this breaks it up. This is something that you'll see on some of the units, not all of them. The site plan really tries to orient this toward the inside, but overall, I think this is a good addition to our project. So again, we did meet with one of the neighbors, and I think he was pleased to see the additional screening trees meeting the requirements this time, and obviously more of the pine, which would block a lot of the view. So we feel that we're now meeting the RT requirements. I'd be happy to answer any questions at this point.
Questions for the applicant? Mr.
Raymond?
Cruz?
I'm looking at the handout you gave us in the screen. It looks like on the screen, there's a planting area and a grassy area, but what you handed out doesn't show that. Which one is the accurate one?
I think in most cases, it would be the one in the perspective. That would be more, this is more of a kind of, I don't want to say a generic look. That is more site-specific that you see in the perspective. Basically you have everything off the driveway on the site plan. If you want to go back to the site plan, you can kind of show what that looks like.
So it's all asphalt and that's just a little fenestration for us? The green area and the planting area?
On the
Between the
initial,
brick.
yes.
Okay.
Jim, you want to add to that?
Oh, does he have something that he
Well,
wants to
it's
add
just
to
they're
that
20, they're
answer?
20-foot
You'll have
wide.
to go to the
u-
microphone,
I'm
sir.
sorry. They're 20-foot wide units, and so there's really about enough room for a air conditioning unit, if you will, which is what we did do in Kilmer, in that back area. It's an auto court design, but it's not pretty, and if we put something in there, it wouldn't live. Been our experience with that much asphalt and that much heat in the summer. So there's really not, enough of width to really do anything.
Well, I've got no
Yeah.
problem with that. I just noticed the discrepancy,
Yeah.
and I wondered which one was
Okay.
the right
I'd
one.
like to have more room, but.
That'd be nice. Yeah.
Thank you. Now, Ms. Cruz, I'm sorry.
I'm curious on the back side of the elevation what the depth is on the patios.
The architectural plans here.
Talk about the balcony.
Yeah, the balconies, what the depths are. I mean, is it really going to be a usable sort of
It
space?
is. It's the same as Kilmer. If you can go out there and see it, it is definitely usable. Brent, I think we have the architectural
It's
plans.
6 feet.
Yeah, it is 6 feet. I think you can go up. I think there's an elevation that shows it better for you. Keep going up. Yep, yeah, that'll help.
Because here's sort of my initial reaction to the changes that you've done, and that is you talk about being able to put a patio in the front of a house, in the front of these units with a hedge around it. And I'm trying to think, where have I seen ever a single-family living residence where they have the patio in the front that includes, their barbecue grill, their patio furniture, their little tykes, plastic stuff, all in the front, when really it's sort of better from an aesthetic point of view if it's in the back. But, I don't know, are the back patios sufficient to accommodate a barbecue and some furniture, or is that all going to be forced to the front?
I would say this, in Kilmer, that's all they have, so the front is really an option, it's not something that's standard. So this would be kind of everybody would have this outdoor living space. The 6 feet, we didn't have I don't know of any issues with anybody using that back area. Jim, you probably know more than I,
But I just,
how
I'm
usable that would
going to
be.
stay up here.
Good.
Well, no, just because I think we both have different ideas. We're not going to let that happen because it's a condominium. There's not going to be little tykes, and that's going to be controlled. And that'll be in the architectural controls, and if you want it, it'll be in the master deed and bylaws, so you can't change it unless you get 66 2/3 in the city. That is if you want to sit there, and I mean, it's done in California all the time. They have little seating areas on their way in. They have little patios and enclosed areas. 6 feet's enough. You need 10 feet to put a table and 4 chairs around it and get by it. So in 6 feet, you can have a table, with 4 chairs and the other one's going like this. They work, but we can't put the beams far enough back into the unit itself to keep them from falling over and get it more than 6 feet cantilevered out. And we didn't want to put posts down. So 6 feet's what our engineers told us we could get, if that makes sense. The backs are cantilevered 6 feet, and you can't go to 8 or 10 feet without having posts and supports, and then cars are going to hit them. So we've
But
given the
it's the
front.
it's the back that faces Rochester Road, right? It's
No,
not the
no, the backs are all internal.
Okay, so the backs are all internal.
And that's where your
The
grills are gonna be,
fronts-
yes.
Okay, but if you had a patio in the front entranceway, you could essentially clutter that up if you.
No, because it's a condo.
Okay,
And there'll be architectural controls, and we'll have a third-party management company, and I think that's a key critical element that needs to be, it can be handled because they're condos, and it should be handled because it would look awful.
okay.
And we don't want that either. so.
Mr. Chairman, can I
Yes.
just, Mr. Cruz, just to point out, essentially the backs where the patios are gonna be, or the decks are gonna be, are in this location here, in this location here.
Okay.
In this location here.
Okay.
So, they will be visible a little bit,
Yes.
but most of them are gonna be screened by the other buildings that front on Rochester.
So we're in essence fattening up that front porch so you can put 2 chairs on it. I mean, we're trying to give it a I don't want to say it's faux, because it isn't. It's going to be a small area where you could literally, if you want to stop and watch Rochester Road, you could.
Well,
Facing east, I think it'll be more attractive. I don't think we're going to have a lot of takers on the
Right.
western view. But
And I noticed on the site-specific plan, there's a lack of what I would call back porch lights. There's not any lighting, you don't have light fixtures?
we will. I
On
think
the
that's just
patios?
it's an artist rendering. There will be. We'll have a fixture outside the door. I know we do in Gilmer, it just isn't showing there. It's the problem with renderings.
I'm
You got
thinking
two
people
ar- you got
probably
two
want to be able to
architects.
see.
Yes, yes. Well, and there'll be lights in the garages too.
Yes, that was my next question. How about
Yeah.
those garages? We need
Yes.
some lights at the garages.
Yeah, yes.
Thank
And
you.
you can make that part of a motion. I mean, that is our intent, so I don't want to.
Mr. Senzi,
Yeah, I really like to, I'm really pleased with the amount of trees that you planned in your landscape plan, but I'm a little disappointed that you didn't do any stormwater features, any BMPs for, bioswales or any type of infiltration type of,
Tim's going to take that.
so I just wondered if you had a chance to look at that site to see if there's any possible places where you might want to put some bioswales or infiltration bases or, those types of things to help enhance the site, the stormwater features.
So we met with the neighbor, and we're going to get to your stormwater, but we met with the neighbor, and he had not seen the second landscape plan. And after looking at it, he asked if it'd be okay if he used that plan and told his wife that he had made us do that. So we're pleased with the landscape plan also. So that was my story. Now Tim will handle these, so.
For the record, this is televised. Just-
Well, then not. Well, he said I told him he could. You know what, I think if he wanted some trees, we told him we'd get him some more, so. And I'd say that if he was here.
So specifically, I think we talked about the bioswales last time and just the BMPs in general. We have silty clay soil out here, which is not conducive to that type of BMP. We did look at it, so, we looked at it from a landscape architect standpoint, we looked at it from an engineering standpoint. We did put a lot of thought into can we do something in here, and is it appropriate? We don't want to do something just to do something. We feel that that's not good for the, not good for the project, and just, overall, I think what we're doing is we're creating a better screening environment. So the reason I'm saying that is, to do the bioswales, obviously you have to have a meandering path, and when you look at the site plan, there's not many places to do that realistically and still get the type of screening that we want to get. There's a lot of tree requirements here. On the east perimeter, there's 44 trees. That's a lot. It's really not possible to do that with the bioswale. Same with, I know there was a comment about the center landscape islands. Same thing with that. The reason we put those in there specifically was so we could have a nice view off the back. Like I mentioned before, these really do live out the back with all that glass. We want them to see the trees back there. If you put some type of bioswales in there, you're not going to get that type of planting. And same thing with Rochester. We're really kind of limited with what we can do with that with all the tree planting. We think it looks great as far as the screening, but we did look at it, and those were some of the concerns that came up with. Again, the soil conditions were not ideal for that type of use as well. And then we also looked at the pervious paving. And again, it's when you have the silty clay type of soil, it makes it difficult to do that. And again, this is really a type of urban type of project. You see that more in a rural type. We could do something out front, and it might look like it's unkept. It might look like there's weeds. I think that the look we're going for here is a nice, clean, urban look. And those are a lot of the reasons why we didn't go down that direction.
if I may interrupt, I know you're relating this to the silty clay soils. That is not unusual. We do have other bioswales in Troy that have been very successful. And just because it's an option, that was one of the things I'm most disappointed with, that you didn't take advantage of that retention pond. What a focal point. It could be a selling point for your whole development there. If you would put a fountain and had bioswales, or plants in that area, aeration, that type of thing. That's what I'm really disappointed in the most. There's another thing coming up that I'll talk about later. Okay. Thank you. Any other comments from the planning commissioners? Mr. Krantz?
Overall, I'm very pleased with the edits you made, the updates. I appreciate the entrances look more substantial, the columns. I appreciate the use of the shakes out front. The back still bothers me a bit. Now, on the back, the one that you handed out, you've got shutters on 3 of the 4 units. It doesn't make really sense. I mean, they're all full anyway, they're not real. But it doesn't make sense to put shutters on a double window like that. But maybe you can enhance that one, instead of putting the vinyl siding, put those shakes on there, just to bring, give another element to it. I like how you put the white lines between, giving more definition between the units. I like the brickwork on the bottom. Maybe, especially on the one that is visible from Rochester Road, that's the one on the north side, those 4, maybe put in a gable roof in there, just to break, like you've done in the front, just to carry that, just to break that long 4 unit into more of a 4 different units. That's my suggestion.
Anyone else have any comments about this?
I love the shake shingle suggestion. I don't know architecturally how involved it is to do the gable roof, but the shake shingle seems easy.
I can put up a gable roof myself.
Really? Well, there you go.
Well, I want to, if no one else will bring it up, I'm really concerned about the size of your landscape. You indicate in here that you're going to plant 6-foot Baldwin and burlapped evergreens. Gentlemen, with the size of this unit like this, the massing, there's no reason why you can't, other than cost, and I concede, yes, it would take more cost. You can plant 10 to 12-foot Baldwin burlap evergreens that have a very good survival rate. I know, I'm a gardener myself. Yes, they will have to be watered and everything, but why would you not do something like that rather than just a 6-foot evergreen? That's the minimum that professional landscape architects put in. And with the size of this building, I think you should be looking for an immediate impact on the public and your customers. So I would just suggest that you go to a 10 to 12-foot evergreen wherever on the, wherever you're planting the 6-foot. Is that possible?
Can we compromise at 8? But we don't, I mean, the warranties and the survivability does go down as the size goes up and the maintenance does go down. And you do have an association that comes back and maintains these. And, what we do find after, 5 and 10 years later is there's a lot of material in these things and they mature very nicely. If we could go with the 8-footers, I think would be a decent compromise if you're willing to accept that.
If it's a minimum 8-foot.
Okay.
I've seen a lot of 8-foots that don't quite make it.
We won't bring any lioness trees. No Charlie Brown trees.
I'd be interested in any comments that Mr. Cahill might have on this project.
Well, I think they've made an improvement with some of the massing and the elements on the front facade. The back facade still, to me, is a little plain. I agree with Mr. Crennan. I think it was brought up with regards to a dormer or a gable end to break up that long roof on the back, and especially on the unit that's on the north end of the property, because you're going to see the back end of that unit from Rochester Road. And, again, Mr. Edmonds' point about the higher landscaping, again, just to better screen that back elevation for sure along the north, I think would be beneficial to the project. So.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I guess, in response to that, I mean, we can look at that area and maybe upsize the material in that area and go with the 8s in the other area, and we can look at putting some additional adornment, if you will, on that end unit.
Yeah.
If that's
Well,
helpful.
I mean, I think it's gonna help your project, honestly.
Yes,
You know, I mean, that is a very public view.
yes.
And, you know, if you take that and sit it next to that,
Right.
it's gonna make that look that much plainer, if you will. So I think anything you can do to upgrade at least that unit where it is visible.
Can we work with staff on that?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, any other questions, comments? Okay, I think we're ready to bring this back to the table for a resolution or further discussion. What page was the suggested resolution?
Yes, it is on page 8. 9, page 9.
9 of the packet, I thought I saw. Okay. That was from the minutes, I'm sorry. Ms. Cruz?
I'm all good with this project. If they want to incorporate some of the suggestions that were made tonight, and that is your 8-foot minimums, I think that needs to be in the resolution on the evergreens. And then on this rear elevation, that is just the straight lines, blah, blah, blah. They want to incorporate some architectural interest with the shake shingles that Mr. Krent suggested in the gabled roofs and then seconded by Mr. Tagle. I think then that makes it a great project in a way that I could probably overlook the lack of best management practices when it comes to water.
I could give it a shot.
Okay, thank you.
All right, resolve the preliminary site plan approval pursuant to Article 8 of the zoning ordinance as requested for proposed Bradley Square condominium, including 31 units located on the east side of Rochester between Bradley and Shallowdale, Section 14 within the RT1 family attached residential and R1C 1 family residential districts be granted, subject to the pines being revised to an 8-foot height, and the developer working with the staff regarding the gabled roof on the proposed buildings, units 1 through 4 on the north.
And shake shingles.
And including the shake shingles, there you go, on the rear elevations.
In the rear elevation.
Of all the units, or just 1 through 4?
We were gonna do it where there weren't shutters, is what I heard.
On all
Where
the-
there weren't shutters.
Where there weren't shutters.
Where there weren't some shutters.
That may be wrong,
Just
but
to-
that's what I think.
No, I think that makes sense, because the shutters add some interest, and then you've got like the one main
Yes.
thing.
I propose that the shakes be included in the all units with the double windows.
And just to clarify, that was a minimum 8-foot tall.
Minimum
That's
8-foot
right.
vault per left.
I'll second that. I'll second.
Proposed by Mr. Sanzika and seconded by Mr. Krent. Any further discussion? If not, the roll call, please, Ms. Sarnicki.
Mr. Faison?
Yes.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
Mr. Krant?
Yes.
Mr. Zanzika?
Yes.
Mr. Daigle?
Yes.
Mr. Abahidian?
Yes.
Ms. Cruz?
Yes.
Mr. Edmonds?
Yes. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Thank you. I think we have a better project. I don't know what it's like, but I do think we got a better project, so,
And we
Thank
certainly
you.
wish you every success.
thank you.
Thanks for listening.
The next item is agenda item number 6, a planned unit development application, PUD 014, proposed revised elevations, Stonecrest planned unit development, east side of Livernois between Big Beaver and Waddles, section 22, currently zoned PUD 14.
I'll do this one, okay. Mr. Carlisle prepared a brief memo for this item, but I volunteered to kick it off. And Mark Pomeranke is here from North Point Development Company out of other shoulder, Mr. Chairman, other shoulder.
Oh, the other one?
Yeah.
I do recognize him, thank you.
From North Point Development in Kansas City. And Kansas City, right? Yeah, he's a Royals fan.
Sorry.
So when you'll recall, when we had the public hearing, we were negotiating this with North Point. They presented two options to us in terms of building elevations. One was predominantly brick, or a lot of brick element, and one was more stone element. And the petitioner asked which one was preferable to the planning commission. The planning commission came to the consensus that the stone elevation was the one that was preferable. And after that meeting, after they had the planning commission public hearing, and then before it was going to city council, Mark called me up and he kind of sheepishly said, you know, you're not going to believe this. What? Well, we want to change the elevations. We want to make them better, but we don't want to give the impression that we're doing a bait and switch, because this project is evolving and we just want to make it better. And I said, well, that's not what we want to do either, because we're above board. The planning commission's been very involved. But I said, how about we do this? How about in the PUD agreement, put a provision in there saying that there's flexibility in terms of the building elevations, and if it is a relatively insignificant change, or significant change, I think it said, that the planning commission will have the authority to review and approve any changes to the elevations, as per just a regular site plan. He said, that's a great idea, and Alan said, that's a great idea. I said, of course it's a great idea. I thought it was fine. So we put it in the PUD agreement, and it was approved a couple months ago, Mark, 3 months ago. So the Mark followed up after it was approved with revised elevations and I want to give Mark an opportunity to kind of summarize where it's coming from and what they want to do. So with that, this is Mark Pomeranke from North Point.
So for the record, Mark Pomeranke, North Point Development, 5015 Northwest Canal Street, Riverside, Missouri, 64150. Thanks again for all your time. I know everyone here has put a lot of effort into this. So just want to thank you for your consideration here again. Again, to give you some of the evolution, we launched the Stonecrest Initiative this last year, and we've been working with, currently we have 5 projects underway, including Troy, which we're getting ready to submit our final development plans. Hopefully tomorrow. We're working with a local contractor, Rewald and Sons, to be our construction manager, general contractor. So we're really excited about the progression of all this. Really excited to get started, but kind of as we went through the process, we had 3 different architects working on 5 different projects. And we're not architects ourselves, so it's very hard for us to express what we like and don't like to our architects as they go through. So we're running 3 different projects, and currently some of it's sticking, some of it's, tweak this, tweak that. And our first project that we did was the Kansas City project, and it was actually a fully entitled site, so we just breezed right through. And as we were going through our permit revisions, we were well under our budget, and we sat and we plowed another $200,000 into our building, making modifications with adding shake, maybe bringing up the stone a little bit. And what turned out was, it probably went from our worst looking building to our best looking building. And so, we were sitting in a meeting, would have been late September, maybe early October, and we were kind of sitting there like, why don't we just make all the buildings look like this? It's a really great look. We kind of identified the elements. We finally kind of went through the process and identified the elements we really liked. That kind of gave us a signature look. So what you got here is the updated perspective view of what we propose to be Stonecrest at Troy. This does a much better job of showing how the porte cochere actually ties into the building than the initial elevations, and I do have an elevation view I can show you side by side. But really the features of this building that changed is the layout didn't change, the roof height didn't really change. The massing, I feel like, got a little bit softer. But really, ultimately, what we did is we took it from more of an institutional feeling building and made it feel like a very big house, a big residential building. And we did that in a couple different ways. One is we added a bunch of gabled roofs, so we went from hip roofs. I'll just show you on the next one. I'll come back to this. So we went from, on the ends here, we kind of went from hip roof. I don't
You broke it.
There we go. So on the ends of the buildings that face the closest to Illinois, we took those kind of the hip roof ends and we gabled them. And we added some architectural detailing with some decorative bracketing. This is a shake, similar to the material you saw earlier. This is a shake siding look up in these gables. So we added the shake siding in the gables to kind of add some accent to the building. We got rid of the standing seam, and we just, because we felt like we were getting enough detail with the gabling, that those were no longer needed to add the interest. We also changed up our entryway a little bit. We narrowed, you kind of see the center element, we narrowed that up to kind of make it feel a little tighter. This turret feature has remained intact. It's fully clad in stone still. So that's still kind of the signature element of the entrance. And then we took this, kind of this balcony wrap and made it more of a residential picketed look than a horizontal. So it's vertical pickets rather than horizontal connections. And really just what we changed kind of how we use stone. So there is a little bit more siding on the front elevation, but we came back in and we added a residential style window. We added some transoms on those windows, on some of the corner units to pop those up. And so in those units, we'll actually have like a little bit taller of a roof in the living room. So those will be kind of the premium units where you get the extra ceiling height and the transom window. Let's see what else. We added trim detailing around all the windows. So before you kind of just have the window set into the siding or the stone. We've really tried to trim that out a little bit better. We added some bay windows. So this is kind of an element that we stole from one of our other projects that we liked. It's kind of this, the building steps out a little bit, so it adds some relief to the elevation. And then we put a little box, a bay window with a shed roof and a gable above it. So that was an element that we really liked that we wanted to keep continuing on. And that's really it. We also did a little bit with the roof line. So this is the same height. So I think we're still under 38 feet at our highest point of our roof. But we did take the roof down in other areas to kind of give some elevation change. And then we did add these chimneys elements on each side of the entrance. And so those probably do go over 38 feet, but they're not a substantial part of the building roof line. So those are kind of the main changes. The north view, pretty similar looking building, but again, we added more gables. I think we have more stone now on the north side of this building, because this elevation is pretty much all stone. We added some sloped roof in the middle section where we have our kitchen and dining areas. And then the memory care really didn't change a whole lot, but it, slight changes to kind of fall in line. We have more covered entrances. So this is now a covered entrance as opposed to kind of an open air entrance. So some pretty minor changes there. Interiors aren't going to change. This is the same interior package. So this is the rendering of our Burlington Creek facility. So this will be very similar to what we'll have here. So materials. So to give you a better view, we'll be two-toned on the paint scheme. Pretty neutral colors at this point. A ledge style stone, asphalt shingle roof, and then this kind of shows you the shake siding and lap siding, so a combination of those two. So the shake siding is a new material. So hopefully you guys like the new look. This is a really easy process, but we're here for feedback. And if there's things that we can change or things we can add, or we're happy to keep working with you guys. We feel like this kind of represents what we are a lot better than the old elevation. And really going from the brick to the stone, and having this time to make the elevations, this really does, I think, a better job of utilizing the stone. One cool element that because we do cut the stone off a little bit here, we kind of have this really great kind of column indentation on the ends that I think really adds some neat dimension to the corners. It just, to me, it's a much more interesting building, much more residential feeling. So with that, I'll kind of leave it open for comments.
Thank you, Mark. Any questions or comments for Mark? Ms. Cruz?
I'm on a roll tonight.
I didn't know.
What I want to say is I look at these new renderings and I look at what we approved before, and this is so much better, so much nicer to me that I can't even believe that I went for what you offered up before. Like, what was wrong with me that I looked at the before and went, oh yeah, no, that's good, that's good. This is awesome, and I love it, and I applaud your efforts, and congratulations on kind of hitting a sweet spot there aesthetically.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Mr. Fazio?
Just a question. Did you say the height of the building didn't change with the changes?
No, it didn't. So I think there's a comment in the memo that, and I think it was just a matter of midline labelings so the midline of the roof versus the peak of the roof.
Where it says the height of the top of the roof increases from 35 feet
Yeah,
6
the
inches to
original
37.
plan, I believe, was 38. I think there was a dimension on the drawings that showed 35.6 to like a midline. So the overall height, in our PUD ordinance, it's 38 feet is the not to exceed, and we're still under that.
And I guess the question I had, I thought I recalled from the earlier conversation that the height of the building was an issue and we had asked for it to be reduced, or the massing to be reduced. Did I recall that correctly?
So our initial plans had 44-foot tall building, tall roofs. So then we brought it down to 38.
Thank you. And then I echo the comments made earlier. I look at this elevation, I think it's much better than the one we saw previously.
Mr. Tagle?
Yes, again, I think you've done your team, your architectural team has done a nice job in changing this from what was a fairly, again, surprising when you see them next to each other, that, really?
Why did we say
Yeah.
yes to the first one?
Yeah.
Why?
We didn't know this was available.
Exactly. See, let this be a lesson to us.
You haven't got the vote yet, so just. Question for you. Do you have fireplaces at those chimneys?
We will have one indoor fireplace up front, and I believe we have two in the property that'll be like a gas.
So, I mean, is one of those chimneys just a faux chimney?
They're both faux chimneys, but there might coincidentally be I don't know exactly where the fireplace is located. It might be directly under it, but they're.
That might not be.
I actually like the two chimneys there. think
Oh, I
it's
do
a
too.
Oh, yeah, I do, but
very distinctive look,
I'd
yeah.
like to be realistic.
I
If
know.
it's a chimney, there should be a fireplace.
Should be
So-
functional.
We do I think we do the gas ones.
Sure, yeah.
So they don't actually need that.
Well, I think this is a really marked improvement. And, I'm glad to hear the comments of some of our commissioners. You have a timeline
Yeah.
for when you think this might be occupied?
Yeah, so the biggest challenge we have is just the Michigan winter to get started. We had a couple little things on the civil engineering that popped up that delayed our submittal, but we're gonna submit tomorrow with our final development plans. So I think we'll have, 1 to 3 month permitting process, but we'll be full speed ahead by April of this year, hopefully, with coming out of getting all the dirt moved and things like that. We're shooting for a December occupancy. That's gonna come down to our contractor.
December next year?
Of this year.
Yeah.
So
2016.
That's very aggressive.
Yeah.
So we are aggressive.
I hope this is good incentives for your contractors.
Yeah, so no, we've been very happy with the kind of the pre-construction work they've been doing to date. So we think we've got a really good local partner with Rewald and Sons. So we're definitely pushing on the schedule, likely January, February opening. And with, we'll do probably the grand opening March or April next year, so we'll have to have you all out to see the.
It's pretty exciting. Great.
We're very excited. This is personally my favorite project that we're working on right now,
Thank
so.
you. Okay, I think we'll bring it back to the planning commission for Resolution or further discussion? Where's the resolution?
31.
31.
Any volunteers?
31, you said?
31 in the packet, yes.
Thanks.
We're just having trouble finding it.
If it doesn't require drafting and only reading, I can read.
Thank you, Ms. Cruz.
Okay. So for the planned unit development application, PUD 014, proposed revised elevations, Stonecrest planned unit development, east side of Livernois between Big Beaver and Wattles, section 22, currently zoned PUD-14. Resolution number PC-2016-01, resolved that preliminary site plan approval pursuant to Article 8 of the zoning ordinance, as requested for the proposed revised building elevations for Stonecrest Assisted Living Facility located on the east side of Livernois between Big Beaver and Wattles, Section 22, within PUD-14, be granted, subject to the following. I don't think we're making any changes. All right, so
Is there a second to the motion? Mr. Tagle, thank you. The roll call, Ms.
Mr. Hudson?
Abstain.
Mr. Krantz?
Yes.
Mr. Vanzika?
Yes.
Mr. Tagle?
Yes.
Mr. Apahidian?
Yes.
Ms. Cruz?
yes.
Mr. Edmonds?
Yes,
Mr. Faison?
Yes.
thank you, motion carries. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item of business is the, number 7, the election of officers. I think you all received in your packet the bylaws that govern our election of officers. The only thing I would recommend, first of all, is that one of the hardest positions, or most difficult positions to fill at the Planning Commission historically has been the BZA representative. It does involve another meeting each month, and it also involves preparation for that meeting, and site visits, things like that. So I guess the first question I would ask, how many people are interested in being the BZA representative? Could you just raise your hand? Thank you, Mr. Sansico.
I've been called a designated sucker before, right?
Yeah, right. Well, I would just recommend that we take care of that first, and then we'll move on to the vice chair and chair positions. Is there a motion to appoint Mr. Sands?
It's to make a recommendation to city council.
Yes, recommendation to city council, thank you.
I will make such
Mr.
a
Tagle.
recommendation that Mr. Sanzika continue as our VZA representative.
And I think we have to have a second, do we? We do? Mrs. Cruz, thank you. The roll call, Ms. Zarnicki?
Mr. Krantz?
Yes.
Mr. Zanzika?
Yes.
Mr. Tagle?
Yes.
Mr. Apahidian?
Yes.
Ms. Cruz?
Yes.
Mr. Edmonds?
Yes.
Mr. Faison?
Yes.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
Congratulations, Mr. Sanzica. Thank you, you're doing a great job.
Are you gonna go buy a lottery ticket now that you're so lucky?
Okay, before we go into the chair and vice chair, I want all of you to know, I think I've had conversations with all of you individually today. Upon further thought, I've reconsidered my position. I don't like ever doing a job just partially, and one of my biggest goals was the completion of the master plan update during my chairmanship. So I would respectfully ask for your support for that position, and at the same time, I also believe that Mr. Tom Krent is probably the most qualified of the remaining commissioners here to serve as the vice chair for next year. Any comments or recommendations?
This would be Mr. Edmonds' third term, and this is having a chairman or chairperson do a third term is not unprecedented in the city of Troy. In fact, the last one to do so was Mr. Schultz, who I believe was 2009, 2010, 2011. And prior to Mr. Schultz, I believe Mr. Chamberlain was chairman for a number of years.
Yes.
So personally, I think there's a lot of merit in having a chairperson serve multiple terms, up to 3 or more. I think there's a sweet spot in there where you don't want one serving for 30 years.
No.
But I think by the time you get comfortable and you learn the protocol and you kind of hit your stride, your 2 years is up. I mean, I know there's some people here that were chairman, and I think there's a lot of merit to be said for extending a chairperson a third term, my opinion.
Thank you. Mr. Sensi?
Could that be one motion
Yes, I think it could be.
for the chairman and the vice chairman? I do move that we nominate Mr. Evans for chairman and Mr. Krent as vice chairman.
I'll second that.
Seconded by Ms. Cruz. Again, this is a recommendation to the city council. If there's no further discussion, the roll call, please.
Mr. Sanzica?
Yes.
Mr. Chagel?
Yes?
Mr. Appiadian?
Yes.
Ms. Cruz?
Yes.
Mr. Edmonds?
Yes,
Mr. Faison?
Yes.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
Mr. Krant?
Yes.
thank you.
Congratulations.
I'm very humbled by your support and will do my best to meet your expectations. Thank you. The next item is number 8, public comment for items on the current agenda. Is there anyone in the audience who wants to speak to that? Okay, seeing no one, we'll move on to planning commission comment. Let's begin tonight with Mr. Faison.
I have no comments.
Mr. Appiadian?
No comment.
Ms. Cruz? You
I
always have a comment.
I always have a comment, I know. I just want to wish everyone Happy New Year. I'm looking forward to an outstanding 2016. I'm hoping we get some awesome projects that we can look at and approve and continue to keep Troy moving in a direction that is forward, progressive, and growth-oriented, that meets the needs of our citizens and our residents. And I want to congratulate you on your third term and Mr. Krent as vice chair. And I'm sort of excited about the new project that we did tonight with the Stonecrest. I'm stunned at how many changes that they made and how much better it is. And I'm just going to become pickier in 2016. I just am.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Hudson?
No comment. I can't follow that either. One thing I would like to see is pitchers of water or water bottles like we used to have when we were in the council chambers.
Oh,
Just helps my throat.
okay.
We can give you water, I
You
guess.
do have a sore throat tonight.
Yes, I do.
Since you are vice chair.
Mr. Sensi?
Yes, I just wanted to share an experience I had on my, over the Christmas holiday, when I visited my in-laws in Asheville, North Carolina. And I've shared some of the web links and stuff with some of the members of the council, but there's a development called the Biltmore Park Town Square, right off of Long Shoals Road and I-26. It's a mixed-use development that is just outstanding. There's a restaurant, there's hotels, residential, commercial. It was just phenomenal. It's on 40 acres of land. There is a surrounding area of residential, like 750 acres, which have beautiful mountain views, but it's just absolutely phenomenal. And for me, it just inspired me to think of where can we put that in Troy? And my ideas were, and I've shared it with Brent, and I know you've talked to some of the other folks in the area, that if we were proposing to do any incentives to developers, in Troy, I think the Kmart site would be the most logical spot to put a development like this. And I think now is the appropriate time with the market and the economy. And I know I understand that the Kmart, the Forbes owners of Somerset homes are very conservative, but it's just, in my mind, it would totally complement the Somerset development as far as the timing of the uses, the parking decks, the traffic, and all those things. And so I just wanted to share that with the Planning Commission. I think there's some really interesting videos on YouTube on Biltmore Park, Town Square, that I would encourage you to look up. And it's just a great family setting, a great use of walkability, a downtown setting. And I believe we do need a focus in Troy and to get rid of that albatross we have right now at the Kmart building. It's just totally an eyesore. I recall, just make it brief, I don't need to prolong this, but I recall in 2009, I believe, where we had the brownfield development and the issue of the economy, and there was issues with the economic development and a potential grant to help through the state, through MEDC, to demolish or take down the structure, but it wasn't our community didn't qualify for that type of development because it wasn't a core community, because it wasn't a low-income community. But I think we may be able to provide other incentives to the Somerset development that would encourage them to at least take a look at a development of this nature, to have a town square that the city of Troy can be proud of. So I just wanted to share my experience. I was really, really encouraged, and the area was just so vibrant. Even Christmas Eve, Star Wars was on, and all the theaters and restaurants, and there's squares and people walking. And to me, if you're going to have a walkable community, you need it to be in a close proximity rather than a long, longitudinal downtown that that really doesn't encourage walkability, and close development of that nature would. So just wanted to share that, and I know I've shared it with some of the other members, but I think if you could take a look at it, possibly we could talk to the mayor and the planners and Mark to encourage them to do something like that. I would really.
I've taken the liberty to talk to the mayor tonight. I forwarded your email to him. So I would also suggest a request that, since a lot of the commissioners have not received that, is it possible that you could put that out to all the planning commission?
Yeah, I think I circulated it internally.
Yes.
I don't think I circulated it to the planning commission. Sure.
I'll give you the link for the
Yeah.
YouTube video.
Yeah.
It was really, really well done.
Ms. Cruz?
I'm just curious, what value, if any, and what are the chances, if any, if you could get Mr. Forbes and Mr. Frankel in for a dialogue about what we could do with that space, what they're willing to do with that space, what their thoughts are? I mean, am I pie in the sky sort of dreaming, or?
I'll take that one on.
Okay.
At great risk. No, I think there have been several conversations with the owners of the Kmart property, Forbes Cohen. And as Phil said, they are very conservative, and they've said, without incentives, I don't think something like this would ever happen. I think, and I talked to the mayor also, I said, I think that maybe that's something perhaps we might want to even talk about at the retreat, as to how something like that. Incentives don't always have to be money, but money helps, And we all know, from those of us who went to the conference, if it hadn't been for incentives, financial incentives, the city of Fenton would not be the way it is today. So they made their standards, and anybody who came in and met those standards was approved within 30 days, period. So that's why Fenton looks the way it does today. So I think those are good things that we can learn from.
So,
Mr. Senate.
a couple things. First of all, Ms. Cruz indicated she's going to become pickier, so effective immediately, I'm resigning as liaison for the planning commission. Kidding. Fenton, everyone went to the conference and sat in on the presentation regarding Fenton. Go to Google Fenton embezzlement, and go to the news section, okay?
It's bad?
It's bad. It's
Oh.
bad. I think you're going to be seeing probably less new mixed-use development in Fenton in the near future, because the person who spearheaded most of that is going to be going to jail for a very long time.
$20 million.
Oh,
So that's
We don't want to be a part of it.
public information, Google. I encourage all of you, you are all invited to the retreat. Please consider attending it in late February. We're going to be talking about incentives. We're going to be talking about some of the lessons that we learned on our three-man-in-a-truck tour to Ohio and Indiana. We're going to be talking about this campus property and the potential for perhaps utilizing some of this land that we own. That is a potential incentive to get development done. So that, please consider attending the retreat. Updates on 3 projects. The city council meeting of January 25th, there'll be 2 announcements of public hearing, one for woodland protection and one for the street vacation, the alley vacation that we made a recommendation on. And they'll be going before city council for a public hearing, the first council meeting in February, I forget the date. And the other project is the master plan, and also on January 25th, we will be requesting that planning commission distribute the plan and start the notification time period of 64 days. So those are moving forward. Oil and gas, I don't have a status update on you. We did get I know you were all informed that we got finally the comments back, answering the question. I haven't had an opportunity to find out what the next steps are. I think it's going to be consideration by planning commission, but I want to make sure I coordinate that with the attorney's office and Brian and et cetera. So that's all I got.
I got a quick question. I mean, is there any movement on the sign ordinance, proposed sign ordinance that changes the?
Not right now, no. I haven't been given any direction to work on that. There might be, though. This is a busy time period right now for a lot of reasons. One, the retreat, which kickstarts the budget. I mean, I just got my request to work on the budget this evening, and it starts to kind of pick up internally. But there's some issues that need to be taken care of. I know there's been some discussion internally about some signage issues, and we'll get
I know we've talked about it. I think maybe we could just put that on the agenda for something we do in the next year. I think that would be really great.
Thank you. Is there any other comments? Okay, if not, then this meeting is adjourned.